Vision of a Union of Israel and Palestine. This reading will be direct yet detailed enough to create a vision of what one may call peace. Peace in the sense of lack of violence used by one side or nation state against the other is a goal which we seek to achieve with such dreams. All this only remains an illusion as long as narrow-minded, all-or-nothing controllers determine the fate of the region, or rather the psyche of the masses involved, determined largely by media-propagated groupthink, is responsible for the approach that we as a whole take towards the situation. Israel and Palestine. The solutions to the current predicament must be measurable and pragmatic. The wisest of leaders, whether secular or religious, throughout history, have assessed any problems for the opportunities and threats and made goals and strategies. We must encompass all the factors into a realistic dissertation on how to advance a more stable and prosperous region and by extension world. Religion, land and union, right of return, power and diplomacy, peace. These are the major factors which will be briefly discussed here in a quite succinct manner, so a general familiarity of the current situation will be necessary. The main goals of such a proposal are that Israel achieves security from any Palestinian aggressors and Palestinians achieve a sovereign state. Religion, Muslims, Jews, Christians, the three main Abrahamic faiths. A large percentage of Muslims want all of the land returned to Palestinians or right of return, at least to all of Israel. Many Jews want to continue advancing onto Palestinian territory with no end in sight. Christians are a minority player in numbers on the ground, but have massive global influence based largely on international support of Israel. They mostly wish to have a stable and protected Israel and peace in the region. There is no need to address the background and similarities of all the three faiths. Anyone reading this paper should be familiar with them. Knowing therefore the professed creed, shared creed of adherence to monotheism, these three faiths can theoretically coexist as they have in past generations with minimal strife between citizens. The continued bloodshed and terror perpetrated by all sides only fuels the fires of revenge and hate which pass down through time. The positive and tolerant aspects of each of these faiths must be focused upon and propagated to the masses of adherents. This is a perpetual action which is a foundation and shield against greater decay in mass consciousness. Thus, the believers will become greater proponents of this vision of peace and more positively react toward any unrest. Secular media and outlets should in similar fashion promote the same values which influence all people inclusively. Public and private funding and corporations will be motivated or compelled to take such required actions as well as individuals. The beliefs and sacred places and objects of each of the three religions must be protected at all times. Special measures will be taken, including on individual cases, to maximize the protection and access to of these sites and objects. Land and union. The union will be secular, but have strong religious undertones. Full respect must be enjoined for all the participants, and no discrimination can take place based on gender, age, or faith. This limited government cannot legislate beyond its assigned duties unless a designated majority of both sides agrees to an amendment. The State of Israel will remain a sovereign nation. The State of Palestine will become a sovereign nation. The only exceptions to complete control will be the limited and secular union between the two nations and any other previous existing obligations such as requirements of UN membership. Israel and Palestine may therefore have whichever type of government they choose, given that each other's citizens are protected and not harmed, and any aggressors on either side are dealt with accordingly. Peace will be mandated against any who seek to return to violence and division. There will be one land with two states, the State of Israel and the State of Palestine. They will have a union based on a limited constitution with chosen representatives to administer to such issues as a newly shared Jerusalem and any other highly contested areas, semi-autonomous regions within each other's territory, and other issues like intelligence sharing and counter-terrorism resources. This equal sharing by each side, with neither having a greater say than the other, will be the basis for a partnership for mutual security and sovereignty. The State of Israel will retain its current 1967 borders and also most of the territory it has acquired since then. Any very inlying areas of settlers in the Palestinian territories will be sanctioned as semi-autonomous regions, part of Israel, but subject to certain Palestinian legislation. In return for this added territory, Israel must give in return a mixture of land and currency. The fertility and accessibility of the land exchange must be factored in. The State of Palestine will be given full sovereignty over the remaining areas of the Gaza Strip and West Bank. They will have full rights over their resources, the only exception being obligations of sufficient contracts with any semi-autonomous Israeli settlements in the region. All Israeli troops and any hostile agents will be removed from the Palestinian state. Full control over its own borders will be returned, along with full access to the sea and all international trade. Inspectors sent by the Union of Israel and Palestine will be permitted to oversee the trade, to forbid any unsanctioned weapons. Israel will refrain from any physical aggression towards any sovereign Palestinians unless they are being attacked or threatened with imminent attack, and then only are allowed action according to established protocol by the Union. Israel, being a fully capable and sovereign state, to a large degree a Jewish homeland, will have full representation at its half of the Union government. The Palestinians, being divided and representing Arabs and Muslims, will have an international element of inclusion in their half of the Union. In return for partial representation in the Union and in support of a prosperous Palestine and Muslim unity, the wealthier Arab and Muslim states will pledge economic, financial, and political support to the State of Palestine. This will be under contractual obligations signed by the included nations in agreement with Palestine. Other countries in the world will be pressured to also similarly support Palestinian growth in pursuance of peace and stability, primarily through investment. Right of return. A limited number of refugees will be allowed to return to the State of Israel. Unlimited amount of refugees may return to the State of Palestine. All Palestinians will be allowed certain visitation rights to travel in Israel. However, those with criminal record or other may be exempted. Migration to either area must be based upon demonstrated evidence of lineage in either area. Otherwise, citizenship may be contested. Internally and externally displaced Palestinians will be compensated for certain territories forcefully acquired by Israel. The Israeli government will pay out a limited amount of currency or land distributed as determined by the Union to the refugees who return and those who apply for compensation from abroad. Other nations, corporations, and individuals will be pressured to contribute to the compensation fund as well, which will in turn contribute greatly to a newly revived Palestinian economy. Power and diplomacy. Power is not everything, but it sure gives one a strong hand in diplomacy. The current state of Israel is a military superpower. It is fully backed by the most powerful military the world has ever known, along with many of its allies. The current Palestinian territories are highly divided and underdeveloped. Only with international support will they within a generation become united and modernized enough to ensure stability. Great acquisitions are given to Israel in return for mutual peace and sovereignty. Great compensation is also given to Palestinians. The price may seem high to extremists on both sides, but the majority of those who strive for peace will see that it is only by being diplomatic will there ever be stability. Peace. The majority of the world's population, along with the power structure on all sides, will realize that such a pragmatic approach and solution will create a protected and stable Israel and Palestine. It will have tremendous impact throughout the region and by extension the world. It will alter the consciousness of billions of aware humans in a positive way like no other peace can bring. This region is essential to these three major faiths. The common lineage of ancestors and prophets inclines us to unite in peace. A tolerant, diverse, and prosperous region will forever change the course of humanity. Anyone who would oppose such a vision for selfish, greedy means is just an obstacle which must be overcome. The forces of peace, if strong enough, can push forth such an agenda as proposed here. In the end, Palestinians gain a sovereign nation state of their own, with a total end of any occupation. They are given major support internationally to speed up their recovery and ensure stability. Israel is given a great amount of the territory it has taken in excess of the 1967 defined boundaries. It will be protected from any aggressors within Palestine by a much more effective and long-term means. Israel will gain much respect among people worldwide and reverse the escalating negative perception of it. The Arab and Muslim countries and individuals will naturally be more welcoming towards Israel in all relations. Instead of constantly feeling on the verge of World War III in the region, a new peace will emerge that may last for 100 years and more. The consequences of steps towards such a union should not be undervalued. The relational improvement created by such a union would reverberate throughout the world, specifically to those of the three faiths who comprise over half the world's population and dominate 5 continents. Perhaps these are just wasted words. Perhaps it's a vision that will never happen. But I, for one, will not give up without any effort. Perhaps this vision will inspire one who has a great impact on the matter. Perhaps that person is you. God does not give us an exact timeline as to when things will happen. The best among us will work toward a better future. The best among us chooses peace.